Welcome, everyone, to a great interview with Gladwin Mendez, who is the Chief Data Officer at Fisher Funds. Gladwin, it's great to be with you today.
It's great to be here, Mark. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Before we get started with the interview, would you go ahead and share just a little bit about your background, how you came to be the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Fisher?
Yeah, so I'm the Data and Technology Operations Officer at Fisher Funds. And while we're sort of the fifth largest superannuation and sort of investment firm in New Zealand, and how I ended up here was through my sort of 15 plus years working across consulting organizations, the Big Four, Deloitte, KPMG, PwC, and having success there, building up analytics teams and leading analytics teams. All those things have culminated into sort of me landing up at Fisher Funds, right? And so my background, very strong analytics, technology, risk background. Sort of did an engineering degree in university and sort of get involved quite a bit with presenting to universities on analytics to cultivate that grassroots level, and also top down involved on sort of advisory boards on sort of everything from data analytics and technology. So yeah.
Great. So I understand that you're going to be participating in the CDAO Deep Dive Asian online panel coming up soon. What are some of the differences as you think about kind of the community in New Zealand and the Asian data communities in terms of challenges and ongoing issues? And how can each region learn from each other's successes?
Well, I think the big one that I see between the regions, New Zealand and the Asian region as a whole, would definitely be two things. Is the Asian regions generally have better access to people and better access to technology and cloud infrastructure, right? They've got all the data centers pretty much in their back doors. Whereas New Zealand, we're kind of tucked far, far away. Sometimes we don't even get included on maps, right? In a nutshell, what can we learn? So I think us Kiwis and data leaders should take a step back and take a more mature approach to data instead of always constantly band-aiding and fixing things, right? Learning to leverage off global expertise through the great kind of conferences like Corinium, etc. Now everything's digital. No longer do you have to fly over. You can just literally jump online and leverage that great global expertise. Me being involved with the CDAO Asian conferences. What can others learn from us Kiwis is, definitely how to better MacGyver a solution and being more agile, and breaking down this formality silos and working on what I would call collective excellence.
Mm-hmm. So now the panel that you're going to participate on, positioning data at the forefront of business to drive consumer engagement at the event itself, if you could share a little bit with us about what you see are the top three drivers of data monetization that you're going to share on the panel and that you think will have a positive influence on data application and usage within 2022.
So the interesting thing is, the first one I'll start off with is foundations are the new innovation, right? It's interesting. And that was, as you'll see, and it was a resounding recurring theme across all the leaders on the panel I was on, is ensuring you have good, strong foundations around your strategy, people, process, technology, and data will be key. Mm-hmm. It was a pleasant surprise that everyone on the panel all unanimously agreed foundations are the new innovation. You can't innovate, and I'll use the analogy of walking upstairs. Think of your left foot as innovation and the right foot as foundational work. How do you walk upstairs? You take a step for innovation, then you take a step with foundation. And that's how you're going to deliver value quickly and learn to monetize your data. Because guess what? And to the second point, if your data isn't clean and you don't have a data quality program in place, no one's going to pay you for bad quality data. Talking about cars. If you're paying for a Ferrari and you get a banged up old car, you're going to be mad and you're not going to pay for that, are you? And thirdly, and finally, my last point is, as people get more mature, and they increase their maturity, they'll look at not just the data monetization, but bundling up predictive machine learning algorithms and sort of AI models and so on, and looking at monetizing those, right? Because, for example, did you know that Netflix recommendation engine is worth $1 billion a year, according to Business Insider? It's amazing, right? And we've all seen Netflix's recommendation in action, right? So it's not just monetizing data, it's monetizing everything around it. But as always, the same rule applies to data quality. The model has to be robust and good, and before you can sell it. So yeah.
So what are some of the data innovation strategies that you've heard about, at the event on data innovation? What are kind of some of the top strategies that are out there in the Asian Pacific Rim?
It's how can you deliver value quickly, and that's the kind of key theme I'm looking across the conference this year, which is things like definitely low code data approaches to machine learning and AI, right? To the message I had earlier on, it's hard to get good people. It's hard to get machine learning AI experts out there and convince them to come to New Zealand. How can we leverage off these low code, these simpler platforms to upskill our data people more quickly and efficiently, and leveraging off the learnings off this FANG technologies, algorithms, and models to deliver value quickly is what I'm looking for on that key theme across, because that's what I'm thinking about for my business is like, hey, where can I leverage this? But again, with that big people focus.
Mm-hmm. So, without giving away too much here, there's some exciting technologies or solutions that you have your eye on. I don't want you to share all of the nuggets of insight, but just a few. Can you give us a little bit around what you're going to share as you discuss the various topics of priority for you at the CDAO Deep Dive Asian Online Data Innovation event?
I think the key thing here is that there's no silver bullet to data success. If you've noticed, I've had that strong people focus throughout this interview. And it's people that implement change in tech and so on. It's not technology. It's not like you put a technology in and you can automatically have the change management across the data culture. So I don't think it's going to be a surprise when there's that focus on positioning data at the forefront with people written all over it, right? It's going to be the people driving that and the enforcing and trying to create that data culture and increasing adoption within the business. That's one of the key things.
That's a really key point. I'd like you to maybe just elaborate on a little bit, because there's been a big move around the world now on this whole idea of data literacy and creating, a almost a data language within the business in terms of their ability to understand and assimilate what various states of data quality might be, the availability of data, the formulaic algorithms that, create derived key performance indicators, et cetera. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing around the whole data literacy formalization movement down in your region?
Yeah, look, in our region, it's got massive focus, right? I think people have tried, throwing over the fence, implemented technology, and adoption has not been great. There's some organizations I've heard of that have chucked millions of dollars into an analytics program to just end up with a single spreadsheet at the end of it and very low adoption. So it's thinking of how can you take people on the journey? More importantly, how can you deliver value quickly? Gone are the waterfall approaches to delivering value. With these analytic programs, it's got to be quick. MVP, get some value out quickly. The people who are going on the journey, them understanding the challenges behind what you're delivering and the value. So it's literally taking people on that journey. That literacy, look, everyone I talk to, that's one of the key focuses, is how do you educate top down, the execs, the board, because interestingly enough, what are the board looking at? All the dashboards that they look at, it's based on data.
Right.
So it's that literacy, right? Everything is like top down, also bottom up. How do you educate people, move them more to self-service and so on? And how do you create that closed loop program? If they're identifying issues, they know who to go to help solve their problem. So the governance is key.
Yeah. So then, what would you say is the secret sauce in that landscape? for an organization to kind of get it right and make it effective? Because you dropped out the key word that everybody is really looking for, this holy grail of adoption. But there's a lot of implications around that word, because I'm not going to adopt something that I don't understand. I'm not going to adopt something that I don't trust the data behind it. I'm not going to adopt something that I believe is not secure. So, when you think about adoption, in this whole equation that you just described, what is the secret sauce in your mind to getting data literacy right so that it can lead to adoption?
If you're not going to educate your organization on data and what the art of what's possible, you're not going to get adoption. So, within my team, my data manager, she used to do an amazing job of running lunchtime sessions, right? It's only an hour out of people's lives. She'd run it over lunch. People could just join in, dial in, and listen to the presentation. And she would generally just talk about some of the work she was doing, some of the insight, and the amazing questions we got out of that, right? She was so passionate, right? And it's getting, and look, not forcing people into pigeonholes that they're not comfortable. You wouldn't get a data person who's not comfortable presenting or talking, but someone who find the right people within your team who have that passion, and tag team with them and run simple things like a monthly lunchtime session, education, get the feedback, adapt, pivot, what works, and so on. So, when I update my data strategy, I'll be presenting that to the executive and the wider business. There's full transparency so that the wider business understands, okay, this is the overall company strategy. This is how the data strategy sits there. And this is what it means for me. And I use a statement of and this, to summarize all of this, Mark, is if you can show people what's in it for we, not what's in it for me, but what's in it for we, you get a lot better adoption, because it's like, hey, if I help you with this, it will save you X amount of time later on in your monthly reporting or your GL in your finance and month-end reporting, then you'll get way more adoption, and then you tackle that people challenge and opportunity.
Yeah, I think you sort of summed it up really well. It's sort of the carrot leads better than the stick, right? So if you put that sort of corporate or the we value into what you're offering, and people can see that, then they'll be wanting to pull it into their world. As we wrap up the discussion, and I know the event's coming up on November 23rd and 24th, what are you looking for? What are the key points of discussion that you look forward to? And maybe these will inform some other folks that are going to tune into the event of what might be of interest to them.
Yeah, look, I think for me, the Corinium conferences do an amazing job of getting real life use cases and stories shared. So I've always really enjoyed those real life outcomes and how people went on that journey and how they overcame the various challenges from people, technology, data, and strategy, right? So that's what I often look for, is the real life examples rather than theoretical, hey, if you implement XYZ technology, you'll be able to do this. It's okay, we've actually implemented this technology, and this is the journey we went on, and these were the learnings. That's really what I look forward to with these conferences. So that's amazing. So yeah.
Let's just assume that you're speaking to a CEO and a CFO in an organization. What message would you like to deliver to those folks as a pearl of wisdom from this discussion?
Look, to wrap up that recurring message throughout this interview, I will use a Maori proverb that sums it up perfectly. And the proverb goes like this: what is the most important thing in the world? He tangata, he tangata, he tangata, which translates to, it is the people, it is the people, it is the people. And having that alignment throughout the business and its people, processes, technology, and data is critical. And that's how we're going to do better than our competitors. And, everyone's heard of the comment, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
That's right.
I fully believe that, right? If you don't have the people behind you, you're not going to get there. It's the hardest, but it's the most rewarding challenge and opportunity to leverage and overcome.
Yeah, that's a great note to end on. Everyone, you've been with me here today, speaking with Gladwin Mendez, who's with Fisher Funds, And we've had a great conversation. Looking forward to staying in touch with him and learning from the innovations that he's bringing down in Kiwi land, as he likes to call it. Mark Johnson here, editorial board chair for CDO Magazine. Thank you for tuning in today. And if you're hearing this interview before the event, November 23rd and 24th, go look it up. CDAO Deep Dive Asian Online Data Conference. It's going to be a good event. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.